I think. Let me just make one correction. I think we're live. I will welcome the representatives of Cable and Wireless here to the Bahamas to recognize that we're in the presence of the new chair, Mr. Philip Bentley, who is here with Mr. Jeff Houston and other representatives of BTC. But today we meet to formalize an historic agreement under which the majority economic interest in BTC will once again rest with the Bahamian people. Let me say right from the outset that this regaining of the majority economic interest in BTC will not cost the government or the people of the Bahamas one single cent. Not one. On the contrary, the government has been able to amicably secure the return of majority economic interest in BTC without having to pay anything for it. And I should add, without having to make any deals to get it done either. In particular, there will be no extension of BTC's monopoly, as indicated before by me with the consent and approval of the Cable and Wireless, and no postponement of the liberalization of the telecommunications sector, again as agreed to and indicated by Cable and Wireless. Let us be very clear about this then. We will not have paid and will not have to pay for the reacquired shares in any form or fashion. So in financial terms, this is a win-win for the government and people of the Bahamas. I say what I have just said up front so that all the naysayers out there who were saying we were wasting our time and that we were going to have to pay huge sums and or crippling penalties, well, I don't know what they're going to say now. They have all been proved wrong, and let me say dead wrong. To put today's agreement in historical perspective, it will be recalled that up until 2011, I beg your pardon, BTC was 100% owned by the Bahamian people. In 2011, however, the then government sold a 51% majority interest in BTC to Cable and Wireless Communications, CWC, the United Kingdom-based multinational telecommunications conglomerate. I am happy to confirm today that following many months of discussion with CWC, we have arrived at an agreement which will, as I have said, return the majority economic interest in BTC to the Bahamian people and on terms that will not cost the Bahamian taxpayer anything. I should like to take public note of the fact that the discussions that have been culminated in this historic agreement were carried out with the utmost cordiality and on a completely voluntary basis, without threat or compulsion on either side. I truly wish to express thanks and appreciation to the principals of CWC who cooperated fully with the government and its negotiators to ensure that the outcome arrived at would fairly reflect mutuality and the common desire of both CWC and the government. For this, I wish to give special thanks to the former CEO of CWC, Mr. Tony Rice, and the current CEO of CWC, Mr. Phil Bentley, with each of whom I have developed a rapport and understanding that augurs well, I believe, for future mutually beneficial relations between the government and CWC. Indeed, I look forward to holding regular scheduled meetings with Mr. Bentley so as to ensure that the relations between the government and CWC as partners in BTC can be optimized. I would also like to recognize the important contributions of Mr. Nick Cooper and Mr. Chris Daring of CWC. On the government side, we extend our commendation and thanks to our own negotiating team, headed by Mr. Franklin Wilson, CMG, Mr. Sean McQueenie, QC, Mrs. Rowena Bethel, and Mr. Leon Williams. They have done an outstanding job, and I should add that they have done so without remuneration or any other cost to the government. We are very grateful to them for their superb efforts and their sacrifices. Turning now, if I may, to the agreement, it will specifically result in the transfer by CWC of 5,093,200 of its shares in BTC back to the government for placement in a foundation that will hold these shares in trust for the Bahamian people. In addition to these shares, which represent just under 2% of the total issued share equity in BTC, the new foundation will also hold all of the dividends and other income and all other economic benefits that will accrue from ownership of the shares. We confidently expect that annual dividends from the reacquired shares will be in the low seven-figure range based on historical performance. It is of particular importance to note that the income from the reacquired shares will not be going into the consolidated fund, but instead will be separately held and used by the foundation so as to ensure that money will be used only for permitted purposes, namely to improve and expand the Bahamian people's access to and enjoyment of telecommunications technology throughout the Bahamas. Secondly, to assist in the development of athletics and other sporting, recreational, and civic activities in the Bahamas. And thirdly, to assist in the war against crime by expanding the use of CCTV and telecommunications technology as tools of law enforcement. Now let me be as candid as I can on one point. Although the shares that are being reacquired to be held upon trust for the Bahamian people will carry the entitlement to all of the economic rights, they will be non-voting shares. This means transfer of the shares will not involve any change in the existing arrangements under which executive control and management will continue to rest with CWC. At the same time, let us be equally as clear on what this new agreement does do. It returns approximately 51% of the economic ownership in BTC to the Bahamian people, whereas under the arrangement negotiated by the former government, this same 51% of economic ownership rested with CWC. In addition, under this new phase in the CWC's partnership with the Bahamian people, there will be greater collaboration with the Bahamas Broadcasting Corporation with a view to assisting in the integration of technologies and other collaborative strategies aimed at enhancing the performance of the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. Indeed, I am advised that such collaboration is well underway, and if I am to say so, it also represents a very significant savings for the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. I would wish to conclude by expressing my government's satisfaction with having achieved what we honestly consider to be the best obtainable deal for the Bahamian people under all of the circumstances. One that has not cost us anything, and one that has resulted in the restoration of majority ownership to the Bahamian people on terms that will provide a new source of funding to assist in improving access to technology, improving funding for sports and civic activities, and improving funding for the use of telecommunications technology in the war against crime. I thank you. So, why don't you come here?
Well, thank you.
Please. Easier.
Well, Prime Minister, thank you very much indeed. Members of the Cabinet, Right Honourable gentlemen and ladies, and members of the press. It's a pleasure to be here today. As the Prime Minister said, this is indeed an historic occasion, and I'm delighted to play my role in the agreement that we have just signed. I started my job on the 1st of January, and this is the third time I've come to the Bahamas, so I think you can take away from that the importance that I place on this part of our investments and this country in particular. We're very pleased that we have reached agreement with the government that will, as the Prime Minister said, return a majority economic interest in BTC to the Bahamian people and create the BTC Foundation. The Foundation will be an organisation that delivers benefit directly to the communities of the Bahamas, and its goal, as the Prime Minister has said, is to improve access to enjoyment of telecoms, activities, sports, as well as supporting other key civic programmes. Since the start of our partnership with the government 3 years ago, we have proudly supported the good causes for the Bahamian people, such as Junk Canoe, which I know is something dear to everyone's heart here, but also sponsorship of the Olympics team. And establishing the BTC Foundation creates a structure that enables us to work with the government to support even more, give even more support to the community. And I recognise the point about crime as well. If we can help in any way with the fight for against crime, we would be delighted to play our role. So we're transferring 2% of our BTC shareholding to the government to then provide the foundation with the ongoing source of funding through the dividends paid by BTC. And it's important the foundation is fully funded. And so, of course, a strong BTC and a growing BTC will lead to a stronger and even better funded foundation. So this means as well that the Bahamian people will hold the majority of the economic interest in BTC, as the Prime Minister said, and it delivers for him, I believe, the commitment you made. So I'm delighted to be able to support you with that. I think this agreement strengthens our partnership with government and our cooperation as common shareholders in BTC. We've enjoyed the discussions that we have had, and as the Prime Minister said, they've been conducted with a huge amount of respect and a willingness to really find the right solution for the company and for the Bahamian people, as well as for Cable and Wireless. We have a shared vision to ensure that BTC is a key driver for economic growth in the Bahamas and the development of this country's technology and communications infrastructure. We both want BTC to be the world-class telecoms operator the Bahamian public deserves. BTC will continue to regularly report its progress to government. The government will be represented, of course, on the board of directors, and the Prime Minister and I will meet twice a year to discuss progress with the business. And as the chairman of BTC, I plan to appoint a senior Bahamian policy advisor, a Bahamian citizen, to assist myself and the board in ensuring the company is managed to the good interests of the Bahamian people. So since Since we began our partnership with the government, the company has invested substantially, over $140 million in the last 3 years, to introduce new products like 4G mobile data services, and faster broadband up to 16 megs across all the family islands. And I think that's something that's very important to us as well, that we ensure communication across the family islands is as good as it can be. Now, I have to say this, and I will say this to everyone here and also who may be listening as our customers. Service can always improve, and that's something that we acknowledge. The dropped calls on our mobile network can sometimes be affected. We are working very hard, and Jeff Houston and the Bahamian team, I can tell you now, are committed to ensuring that the service levels are the very best across the Caribbean. And so we are actually investing, and we discussed some plans today, a further $150 million over the next 3 years into the Bahamas telecoms infrastructure. And I can't tell you how important that is to us, that we ensure we have a world-class telecoms business here in the Bahamas. And finally, I want to just make a couple of remarks about Prime Minister Christie and the team that he put in place to negotiate this historic agreement. This is the third time I've met him literally in the last few weeks. And one thing I will tell you is he's kept his word. He's kept his word to Cable and Wireless, but I think he's kept his word and delivered to the Bahamian people. I know you're passionate about the community's work that the foundation can now fund fully. And I know you have a real interest in how the money is deployed and the success of BTC. So I've learned and to know you very much as a man of integrity. And Cable and Wireless would not be doing this deal if we did not feel we had that trust and we had that mutual understanding that we can invest in future now in this country with confidence. So in closing, firstly, I know that BTC is important to the Bahamas. It matters to the Bahamian people, and again, I recognise that and acknowledge it. I think, secondly, as competition intensifies, and it will do, we want BTC to be a company that everyone in the Bahamas wants to be a customer of and is proud of. And thirdly, with the formation of the BTC Foundation and the majority economic interest in the company now residing with the Bahamian people, I think we can all agree and truly say that BTC is the Bahamas telephone company. Thank you.
Mr. Franklin Wilson. That's what he said. Brave them come.
Right Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Ministers, Chairman of Cable and Wireless, and Directors of Cable and Wireless, members of the press. Firstly, I speak on behalf of the members of the negotiating committee, Mr. Sean McQueenie, QC, Mrs. Rowena Bethel, Mr. Leon Williams, to say that we are each grateful to the Right Honourable Prime Minister for the confidence reposed in us to undertake this particular exercise. We are, of course, pleased that both principals are satisfied that the outcome has met their expectations. In terms of our own committee, I believe that the Bahamian people probably have never heard the name Nick Cooper, and many have never heard the name Chris Daring. But I want the Bahamian people to know that this transaction results from the fact that Mr. Cooper and Mr. Daring were prepared to listen. Discussions were very difficult, but I can confirm they've always been cordial and very civil. And I go on record as thanking them because they played great roles. I've personally said to the chairman that to me this is a new beginning. What has happened is we've created a BTC that has never existed before. That is to say, a company that is majority owned by people in the Bahamas, but at the same time is run by the private sector. And there's a lot of reason to believe that that is truly the best combination and the model that can accomplish a lot of good. We believe we've developed a great deal of trust in cable and wireless, and I go on record as saying that when this exercise started, there was a lot of talk and rumors about possible impropriety on the part of cable and wireless, or whatever the case it might be. I want the world to know that obviously our committee investigated all those rumors. We heard what you heard. We found absolutely no evidence of impropriety with respect to the conduct of cable and wireless in these matters. And when I, in the media from time to time, spoke about the transaction itself having been a horrendously unwise transaction, nothing in that was intended to implicate cable and wireless as an organization. I put that on the record. So again, Mr. Prime Minister and members of the Cabinet, on behalf of my colleagues on this committee, we say thank you very, very much for having given us the opportunity to provide some service to this country we know and love. Thank you.
Thank you.